Hey everybody, welcome back to an all-new X's for Podcast, your premier comic podcast for modern Marvel's Chrono Skimming classics and live events. I'm Nico, and you can catch me out on Twitter and Instagram at Nico Action. That's NicoAction.
Hey everybody, it's Nathan. You can find me online at Desiree at Twitter mainly, but all over the socials. And you can find me on there talking about how Rogue is the best Avenger ever. Besides Monica and Jan. But anyway.
Of course. And I'm TK. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, Hive, Tumblr, everywhere at XNateXGrayX.
And we are here to cover an amazing amount of comics today. We're going to be taking a look at kind of like the balance of everything Avengers-y from kind of like May 2021 to now. So I want to briefly start this out with a history of our look at Jason Aaron's Avengers. Now, we've covered a lot of this already, and it all started many moons ago in an X-Verse for podcast long forgotten. Way back in June of 2022, June 17th, we took a look at Avengers 1 through 6. Then on June 24th, we took a look at 7 through 12 and Marvel Legacy. That took us through the first year or so of the storytelling, like logically speaking. But as you can see from the dates released, it came out in a bit less than a year. 12 issues usually, constitutes that comic year. But they were kind of packing them in pretty fast. From there, we took a look at the third and fourth volumes. Avengers Volume 3, War of the Vampires, issues 3 through 17, which came out from January to March. We took a look at that in July. The next week, we took a look at War of the Realms alongside Free Comic Book Day 2019. Now, those issues took us through July of 2019, slowly making our way with X's for Podcast 354. From there, we had a few more episodes of classic Jason Aaron coverage before we switched gears for some Heroes Reborn. We had Challenge of the Ghost Riders in 22 through 25 and Starbrand Reborn in 26 through 30 before rolling over to what are possibly two of the most divisive arcs of this run. For Volume 7, we took a look at Age of Khonshu, and for Volume 8, it's at, I'm like 4 Volume 7, like we had a choice. Right? So, it's Volume 7 and Volume... We were positive on a lot of things here, and that took us through September in our time, but it took us through roughly April of 2021 real time. For the next set of slides, we get to see our next bit of coverage, which entered some wacky territories as we started taking a look at the Heroes Reborn verse, which we kicked off with a really comprehensive history of the Marvel crossover. And from there, hey, doctors. And from there, hey! Oh,
It's
River
River!
Tom's the best. I know she's the best, right? Everyone can take the time for 12 and River. And we took a look at Heroes Reborn, and we took a little bit of time. We reformatted the show. We find ourselves here and now taking a look at a number of books that it's sort of unbelievable the number of creative credits that we're looking at today. And I just want to say that the most consistent things about the material we're looking at today is nearly every issue is written by Jason Aaron and lettered by Corey Pettit. There's a couple of exceptions, one of which I don't know how to deal with the Mark Russell issue of Avengers. I can't make room in my brain for it. We'll get to it in a minute, right? But there's a number of brilliant creators that worked on this book as well. For the Heroes Reborn issues, we see the creative teams of James Stokey, Ed McGuinness, Mark Morales, Matthew Wilson, Paco Medina, Pete Panetazis, Steve Cummings, Jim Zub, Eric Arciniega, R.M. Guerra, Julia Brusco, Christopher Allen, Mark Dealing, Paul Grist, Guru EFX, Tim Seeley, Dan Jurgen, Scott Hanna, Chris Sotomayor, Erica D'Urso, Jason Keefe, Lucas Pizzari, Carlos Lopez, Travis Lanham, Clayton Cowles, Vita Ayala, Farid Karamini, Aaron Cooter, Roland Boshi, Ed Brisson, Chris O'Halloran, I did it. Okay. And that takes us through all of Heroes Reborn. And I'm going to get to everybody else when the time comes because that's just it's so hard to read so many fucking movies.
It's a regular who's who.
Yeah, at some point I just sort of like kind of go full on Matrix mode where I just see the code for a second and I just kind of hope I find the right telephone booth. You know what I mean? Anyway, I am so excited to be here with you guys. All right, guys, we're in the middle of Heroes Reborn. Supposedly, still.
It's insane that like we were like, okay, we got a lot of Heroes Reborn to do, so we're just gonna take a break right now and then we'll get right back to it. A couple little minor diversions that we sort of knew were gonna happen so that it might take us a minute to get back. But then of course, in the meantime, we just completely retooled everything. And I feel like I am both so much more and so much less forgiving of this arc than I was when we were right in the middle of it and doing this recording.
Same.
Yeah, I just read the entirety of where we left off to where we're going to end today, and I was like, oh, yeah.
Well,
It is very much that vibe.
Oh, it is. It's totally that vibe. And I am so excited to be taking a look at, as we have listed on the board, to kick things off. We're going to take a look at Heroes Reborn Continued, because I got a little creative with naming the slides, right? So we're going to be taking a look at Heroes Reborn 4 and 5, Siege Society, Young Squadron, American Knights, Marvel Double Action, and these were released May 26th through June 2nd. Now, guys, one of the things that I'm really excited about with this segment is we have very little time to talk about all of this.
Yay!
This is going to be a speed round in dealing with these books. So, everybody, get your blur caps on.
I refuse to call him Blur. He will always be the wizard of me.
He's a big piss baby, I agree. All right, so let's jump in. Heroes Reborn number 4A. Ugliest beautiful issue I've ever seen. This was the Doc Spectrum issue. Doc Spectrum is my favorite member of the Squadron. I loved Rocket, Groot the Gun, Blinded Watcher. I loved making fun of sort of like the hyper-American dream. How did you guys feel?
I thought it was a good issue. It was a good take on Dr. Spectrum as a weird, fucked up, twisted version of a Green Lantern. So, yeah, it worked.
Yeah, it really worked for me. The art really worked for me. Yes, it was absolutely hideous, but in a way that was so clearly intentional and so gorgeous. And I thought that it spoke to how insane this entire like section of people is, and not just Dr. Spectrum, but like Groot and Rocket in this universe. Like it really managed to capture a mood that to me spoke to, I think, the best intentions of Heroes Reborn that weren't always captured by everybody else. It just fit really well for me. And this was a point at which I was like, see, if it were more of this, I would consider this a total success.
Agreed. Cancerverse Gun was super sad. But good for Starbrand. You know, good Starbrand. I do love the Doc Spectrum Blur reference at the end. Finally, some Mephisto. I think this was like the first actual bit of Mephisto. For the backup story, I love that Wakanda is real because it is. I really loved Okoye. The pacing's a little funny, but I really do love how often I'm just like, they did not just do that.
Yeah.
Sorry,
go
I was
ahead.
about to say, no, please, if there's no more, I was going to be like, all right, I'll move to the next one if there's no further thoughts, but hit me.
I was gonna say, like, if one thing I wish we would have seen more is more of the Starjammers with Groot and Rocket, because that was such an interesting kind of idea, and I love them showing up in this issue. But like, I could have used a whole issue of that.
At this point, my only thing is, I guess, like, this has all been done, and now if somebody is like, I want to do, like, you can go back and pull some of this stuff if you really want to. It's a weird alternate universe, but like now that we're established, grab it.
For like a Night-Gwen, maybe?
Mm.
Night-Gwen from this universe shows up in the most recent Gwenverse mini.
And being reminded of that was actually not a good thing for Gwenverse.
It was not. All right, so blasting through to Heroes Reborn Siege Society. This had Black Widow, Silver Witch, Sabretooth, Baron Zemo, Soviet Agent Hawkeye, and Fire Ant versus Tom Thumb and Amphibian. Tom Thumb is like so low down on my list of give me that Squadron member. So, like, you can fuck yourself, but it was a good issue, I guess. It just sort of was pointless how many of the characters were tossed aside from the Squadron, and this highlighted that. But decent read. Would read again. Got a good beat. You can dance to it.
I actually absolutely hated it. I hated the idea of Wanda and Sabretooth siding with these
great
people.
I agree with that. This is kind of like the opposite of the Doc Spectrum issue, wherein we get to see like what happens when you feel as though you are obligated to put characters in or to make issues, even when the ideas don't make sense, are not super compelling, or not like nobody seems particularly excited that this book is being written. Just that, of course, you need to have some sort of commentary on like the bad guys as good guys and how that plays against the spy stuff. It just all falls flat. And yeah, I mean, like conceptually, like ideas like Wanda and Sabretooth being in the mix with these people, it's really like, unless we're going to do the whole story of how they got there and why I should buy this, just telling me it happened and then glossing over it in one issue kind of ends up missing all of the really important points.
Okay, I completely accept that. And to go from that issue then to, I'm still going to say I loved Young Squadron. Maybe I loved it because I love Kid Spectrum. Like, I would have wanted to have been Kid Spectrum so bad. We got Sam Alexander as Kid Spectrum. We got Kamala Khan as Girl Power. Best name!
Yeah, best name ever.
We have Miles Morales as the second Falcon. The first Falcon, dead or not, got so much play in this series. I love that some people are into their sidekicks, some people aren't. They fight a Deadpool with a mallet who turns... And then, wait, there's Rick Jones. I couldn't follow this, but I liked it. Yeah, Kid Spectrum is very much an ego character.
I loved it. I thought it was fun. Like the idea that they have sidekicks, which sidekicks aren't a huge thing for Marvel. So to really highlight specifically a sidekick issue, a young kids issue, was pretty cool. The fact that it wasn't really a whole team was also interesting. This was one of the ones that got me a little bit like, yeah, this is cool.
Yeah, it was rad. I love the nod to even the Brave and the Bold original New Titans.
Yes.
Yeah, so cool. I was loving it. Girl power, the best. I love Kamala in the universe.
So now I'm going to move us right along to Heroes Reborn 5. And Heroes Reborn 5, because I'm keeping like good track of the time and how much time I have for each one of these segments. And now we're already a little bit behind schedule, but I'm going to keep these asses moving and keep them in the seats. So yes. Then Heroes Reborn 5 is like the story of Darkhawk, which I'm into. But the fact that he's Batman and Spider-Man, which are not two characters that I think are the same, it makes a whole lot of sense. I loved some of the things here. The villain wants to cheat on the Skull. I loved Otto and the Goblin and Deadpool. There was so much stuff I did really like here, but then there's Gwen Joker, and like, I liked this issue, but it was one of those times where I was like, "You're throwing at the wall."
Weirdly, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say it was coming up against the last issue. Like, not as anywhere near as good, especially with the terms of the art being so fantastically gross and grotesque in the last one. Nighthawk doesn't always work for me. I
appreciated that this was a really stylized look. it didn't work for me in the same way that the stylization of the Doc Spectrum thing did. So the thing I was going to say, Nico, is that like this is the issue that is like Darkhawk is the thing that we take out of Heroes Reborn. He's the one that ends up joining the Avengers and like being the most likely to succeed, basically, of all these people. So this is the anchor point at which we're like, we kind of need to fall in love with this guy a little bit. So it felt like they were packing stuff in for that purpose. Like if he's the Spider-Man and the Batman, like maybe he's the most beloved guy. But it doesn't end up working. It just doesn't work like that. And I almost would have kept it out specifically based on the idea that we were going to get more Darkhawk in Avengers and everybody else kind of just needed to have their moment in the sun.
Eventually, we get
Eventually.
more it is fuck. We get Ronan and Black Panther joining in 5B, but it doesn't tell us anything. They're just on the team now. Okay, Knights, American Knights. Let's do it. This was a Nighthawk story featuring Luke Cage with a. Okay, I don't know. I probably shouldn't find Crazy Cleric Murdoch hot.
No, you should not. That is correct. So that's good. We've identified the problem.
This was a fun nuts romp. This was just nuts, though. It was just nuts.
It was nuts. Didn't make any sense, but it was fun at times.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything. This was the Batman thing for Nighthawk, and that's fine. But it did just have a lot of stuff it wanted to talk about that can only really be good if this universe is not ending a week later. Sorry, it's just how it goes,
And for a universe that lasted like. Right? That's it. It got so short that it went backward till it never existed. The flashback in Marvel Double Action Hour Hero Super Spectacular Mega Monolith. I've seen this flashback so many times.
Yeah.
By the end, I felt beat up by it.
I was over it before it even came out. It felt like whenever Norman Osborn sees Gwen Stacy's neck crack over and over and over and over, and I'm like, okay, I got it.
Oh my god! But this time it was Falcon.
No.
Yeah, I mean this relied so heavily on a mythos that just didn't actually exist. Like it was just a weird attempt to like be like, this was really a thing, get into it just for the week though, because it's never a thing again. There was just so much that I couldn't buy into, and this kind of embodies that.
Well, from a kind of low point in the series for me to what I can only call one of my favorite single issues of any book ever of all time, on Heroes Reborn Concluded, we're going to take a look at 7 Return, Squadron Savage, Night-Gwen, Weapon X, and Alpha Flight. But we're going to take a look first at Heroes Reborn number 6. Zarda is so nuts. I
love her.
Yeah, it just, there's nothing even left. She is literally nuts. Like, and the rainbow axe is like my favorite thing. It's right there on the fucking cover. It's made from the shards of the rainbow bridge from when she smashed it. That's so hot. And Dami Mommy, you can have whatever you want from me. I love you. Oh my god, she's so hot. All right.
The litany of like characters that I love that she killed, and I'm still like over here like, I fucking love you, Zarda. Like, just amazing.
Yes.
Yeah, it is pretty great in and of itself. What it ends up doing is making me wish that we got more Zarda in main continuity. We get far too little. And again, my complaint about all this good work on the Squadron Supreme is they still don't really exist in our universe. There's always an alternate universe version. They always go away again. And this was an example of like, I can get in. Oh, basically gone now.
And on that same note, that's how I felt about Hercules and Thor in this issue. I love Crazy Hercules, and I love Thor being here, especially because Thor is who Aaron is best known for writing. That it's such a minor note is really cute. I don't actually know that I follow some of the B story here. I also don't know that I actually understood what happened in Squadron Savage. I like Dazzler being there, but my poor Quentin. I wasn't sure what I read.
I can't believe that you are saying all this first and not talking about how hot the Punisher was.
So hot. Mind-meltingly hot.
Just with those thick ass ankles and calves, I'm just so impressed. I mean, we know what we read here. This is a bit of a tropey story. It is fine, but not good enough to just be one issue. And the fact that we even had one issue, so they were like, pay attention to this, it wasn't necessarily worth the time.
I was like so into Savage Avengers when this came out, so I was like, oh my god, this is great. Now rereading it, I'm like, it's okay.
Same. I had the same reaction. I'm gonna be brave but controversial, and everyone's gonna clap for me like a real housewife. I even have covered a lot of Spider-Gwen for this show at this point. And I even have covered a bunch of Vita Ayala. I think they are a phenomenal creator. This issue was not my it.
To remember that Vita wrote it, I was like, oh, I love them so much. Oh, but not everybody hits 100% of the time. This was not a favorite of mine.
Also, just maybe not the best even concept for a hero. The version that we get in Gwenverse, who looks like a teenager, like an 18-year-old, kind of gives me a vibe that might have worked a little bit more for this. This is like an adult woman with a job who also is kind of behaving like one of the sidekick kids, but is not one of them. I don't know.
Okay. But now let's talk about what might have been the most moment of the whole series for me. In this universe, Civil War was Nighthawk as Venom versus Hyperion. I would pay so much money to read that. Oh my god. The if they could do a Marvel graphic novel of Heroes Reborn Civil War, I think that is such a fucking spin you on your head. It is great. I don't know. I thought this issue was not my favorite. It definitely felt like let's get us to return as quickly as possible.
Agreed.
Yep. And again, like I want the thing that they're not giving us. They're just giving us the reference. And we're, just supposed to imagine how cool it is, which is fine. I've got a great imagination. But if you're not giving me enough good stuff during the event, giving me a bunch of really good ideas and being like, but you can't have them, is never going to endear me to you.
Well, and Coulson was the bad guy of this event. And he's barely in the series until 7B.
Yep.
Right?
Weapon X and Final Flight, what a bummer. Ed Brisson can write Wolverine so beautifully. The art is really strong, even if it's not my thing. And I have too many notes about this one, but the body count is devastating. Jean, Puck, Northstar, Mac, Heather, Marina, Talisman. This might have been the most bodies in a single issue.
It was a bummer, but I'm going to say it. As a massive fan of Alpha Flight, it was really true to Alpha Flight's original series, which was a fucking bummer and a half.
And Walt being the traitor.
That was key. I was like, oh, okay, this is well done. It was well researched. The characters made sense. bummer, but Alpha Flight is often a bummer.
Yeah. I really liked that this whole thing managed to get through itself without overusing Wolverine. And in fact, just like tucking him away in Canada, giving him one really depressing, anguishy story, and then we're done.
All right, so Hero's Return. Let's do it. The whole thing comes down to that moment where Starbrand and Phoenix double smush Zarda. That is like the most epic titty fuck of all time. And like it is the greatest thing I've ever seen. The issue itself is great, but for me the best moment is that and there's 615 more Mephisto.
I did love seeing the Council of the Mephistos, and I'm like, okay, dog Mephisto. All right, I love you. You're okay. All right.
I just to give that number is such a weird choice because then it's like, so is it the first 615 plus hours? No, we obviously know that's not right because
Well, hold on. Did you catch the reference to that's his whole plan?
No.
There's some oblique reference in Avengers 50 where Doom and Mephisto are at it for a minute, and Doom says, I still don't understand why you want to reorder the universes. What care do I have for the order of the universes? So I wonder
see
if
that,
it's the
and
first
I now-
615.
Yeah, so I do remember that reference, and I, of course, am thinking, like, bring new order to the chaos that is not literally reorder them, and I think you're right, and that is, okay, fine, that's sure, but really weird choice. Okay, weird plan, but, like, yeah, I mean, we knew this was going to end, so everything there kind of played out exactly as you would expect it to. Phoenix, Starbrand, Zarda, really, truly an epic moment. But again, don't throw Zarda out now. You just did all this work with her. And now we have to, like, I love where we are at Avengers and we're about to get to it. But, like, we do just hard right into the conclusion of this enormous story and kind of leave everything else behind at a certain point.
I would say, like, my big gripe about the event as a whole is it plays to, yes, while it does play to some of Jason Aaron's strengths, it does play to a lot of his weaknesses where he is glad to smush a lot of stuff together that sometimes is fun, but sometimes you're like, okay, enough. All right, enough. Like, how many of those do we need? And like the reliance on it being an Avengers event ostensibly, but then the two people who save the day are just supporting members of the Avengers. They're not even Avengers.
Yeah, they're centerpieces of Aaron's run, which we get to come back to.
Yay!
I mean, Aaron really does do kind of the, like, when you're an Avenger, you're an Avenger. Like, if you showed up, you are an Avenger. And it's very much that, like, latter post-Claremont X-Men thing where anybody who's at the mansion and throws a punch is now suddenly an X-Man. So, you know, we're all Avengers. And the real Avengers were the friends we made along the way.
It's these guys.
It's like when X-Corps became all officially members of X-Men. So then you had all these people, you're like, oh, they were in X-Men? Oh, they were in X-Corps.
Yeah, every now and then when they're like, oh, this person was an X-Man, I'm like, no, they were in a book called X-Men. Check your shit. Right? Speaking of people who need to check their shit, it's time, my wonderful compatriots. We are rolling our shit over into World War She-Hulk! Now,
Smash!
Jen get big and red. Okay, first of all,
Why the blonde, though? Why the blonde?
I don't care. I love it. I'm so fucking stupid. She looks like Omega Red, and I think it's terrific. This is World War She-Hulk. Yeah, right? Kevo, did you even realize that was She-Hulk?
I do love that, like, when you are completely turned and evil, you are red and blonde. Like, now we know. Now we know.
So Avengers World War She-Hulk, Avengers 46 to 50/750, depending on how you look at reality. That was released from Mega Karen. That's Mega
That's the Red
Karen.
Widow. The Red Widow is the Mega Karen.
She is. And she's gonna
she's
tell
an Omega Karen.
she's gonna tell everybody in Atlantis what's on her mind. So this was released July to December of 2021, finally putting us close to now. I need to say a couple of things here. We got the Winter Guard, we've got Gorilla Man, we've got the Atlanteans, and this is all before we even get to the triple-sized 50. So 46 to 49, this whole Crimson Dynamo, Darkstar Vanguard, Red Widow, Ursa Major, Vostok infiltration. How do you guys feel about the infiltration of the Avengers? What should we call it? House Corps?
I don't like the infiltration. I love this team. I really like the Winter Guard. They makes a lot of sense to me. We've seen a lot of like Russia as just like monolithically evil in X stuff. So for Avengers to be like, it's a little bit more, everybody is just taking care of their sphere. I appreciated that. And so this both like the actual infiltration kind of shoots down any hope we have of making these teams relatively equivalent in any way. Yeah, I don't have a ton more to say about it than that. It feels like just this is what has to happen so we can have the event be called World War She-Hulk.
Yes.
I did like the Gorilla Man story line that came out of it and his quest for redemption, and I was like, I love you so much, Gorilla Man, but yeah, and I don't know. The Winter Guard was cool. It's always cool to see Darkstar here and there.
I'm super gay for Ursa Major and Gorilla Man together. I want them to have hairy big man sex, and it'd be really hot.
Okay.
Right?
I did love how we found out that the whole idea was Jen's idea all along to go along with this. I love the agency they gave her character that she had been missing so much of the Avengers run. I was like, wow, okay. I kind of like Erin's She-Hulk now as she's getting written out of the series. So like, okay, cool.
And that really was the biggest thing for me. This was the first Avengers I had read because at one point we were kind of eyeing doing coverage for She-Hulk, and I wanted to get some background on where she had come from. And I read this, and you know, I saw exactly that. Like, oh, she's getting her story now. She's like in the mix. She's out of the book.
Yeah. Well, and
Yeah.
so then that's the problem with this title for the most part for me. Having gotten to read it all together and then put the slides together, thanks to our amazing producer Kevo, working so hard. He worked so tirelessly to make this show perfect. I saw how many ideas are introduced in like Avengers 7 and don't come due till Avengers 52. And how frustrating that is. And She-Hulk is one of them. And then she disappears. And Maya and Thor get so much play in 46 and 48. And then they disappear. And there's this moment later on in like 60 between Thor and Iron Man. And I'm like, oh, do you two know each other? I didn't realize. Oh, okay. And I do need to say my favorite part of the whole arc is probably when Jen is like, no, here's what's going to happen. I'm going to go to the bottom of the ocean and do what I need to do. And Gorilla Man is like, don't leave me in this boat. Like, the panic on seeing someone actually faced with being an Avenger for a day reminds me why Robbie Reyes is the coolest Avenger ever, even though he gets no play until he's immediately written out of the book.
I mean, but to be written out in the way that he is and to go on to do what he does is okay in this case.
A little bit of all riding, okay. I'm trying to think if there was anything else that I'm like so hardcore about. The reference that Blade makes to being like, yeah, there's like Wolverine vampire stuff. I know about that.
Yeah.
And also I hung out with MI-13 for a little bit. That happened. I was like, yeah, you know stuff.
I did like Blade going through after She-Hulk had ravaged the Vampire Nation and just like killing a few vampires and being like, "Oh no, She-Hulk killed them all. They're all dead." Oopsies.
Okay. The Red Guard's plan. Okay, first. Okay. Red Widow is like, all right, well, this didn't go according to plan. She-Hulk's gonna beat me. Gamma. All right. I'm gonna fight you, She-Hulk. Also, I love you, my handler. Sometimes
And this is what I'm saying.
Curveballs right in.
Yeah, and this is what I'm saying in terms of like he sets up so much cool stuff, and then you're like, oh, make that its own thing. Don't just be like, here's the quickest answer I can possibly give you in this book because this is not the Winter Guard book. Like, get the Winter Guard book published and be like, find out what actually happens in this.
Agreed.
All right. We have to do it. So, anybody who knows me knows that I have an awkwardly romantic relationship with characters who are just giant round heads. I'm really into any character that's like a giant 8-ball or a giant eyeball. Anything like that. And the orb is on a very short list of some of my favorite things Jason Aaron has ever given to the Marvel Universe. And many people don't realize.
Took him away.
Yes. He took away my precious orb. Orb had that creepy Watcher eye Krakoan onto his body. And, some weird shit happens to it. But, ultimately, I just want to start with, what do you guys think about, number one, I do love Thanos, I do love Khazar, Time Avenger. I love that. But number two, what do you guys think about this Masters of Evil? I'm very curious.
Okay. So, like, some of them, we've learned some of their histories, but, like, did we ever learn, is Dark Phoenix really Jean? Or, like, because, I mean, she seems like she is, but we don't know.
Doesn't she look a little bit like she looks like the Nazi tortured kitty?
Oh, a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
A little bit. And is that a mask that she's wearing, or is
she Destiny?
That's what I was wondering. But then she's got this weird obsessions with Logan, so I was like, oh, that's got Jean Grey written all over her.
Yeah, I mean, Logan is just like, using Logan is everybody's jam. Like, that's not, Jean does it best. Jean does it best. She didn't do it first. She won't do it last. So that for me is not like a piece of evidence. It's just like, who wouldn't? Beast is doing it right now in X4. Like, you just throw Berserker him at stuff and stuff happens. I'm kind of into this Masters of Evil. When I read this for the first time, I was not. I think I felt like this, I didn't see where it was going. It didn't make a lot of sense to me. I didn't see how grand the vision was and how it would come together as it is currently. At the time, it just felt like, oh, really? More stuff? And what's great is it is being paid off, and I do like the story. The problem is we shunted off so much of what started this book out for the first 49 issues in order to jump into this final grand story that's happening in Assemble and Forever.
Doom.
So, yeah, I mean, I really do. I like this now. It is good. I'm sort of lamenting how it has come about and what we've lost as a result.
I would say when I first was introduced to him, I was like, oh, wow, this is rad. And then when I was reading more of it, I was like, okay, come on, Jason Aaron, get to the point. And now, upon reread, and a lot more of it has been explained, I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Like, I kind of see it now, but like, I like some of them more in concept than I do in actual reality.
Yeah, I am not here for, like, bratty little kid Thanos. I hate him.
See, I hate him too, but I do feel like he is a good tool. For Aaron, he is just wanton destruction in this way where like we don't have to care and we can move forward like villainy.
I do.
I love Ghost Goblin. I don't want to talk about it.
See,
I do.
We are opposites here. I do not care for Ghost Goblin at all.
I don't get him. Like, he goes around killing Ghost Riders. Like, what? But like, I do love the idea of Doom that like has a weird sexual fetish about killing other
Dooms. It's so hot.
It's like, okay, that's very Dr. Doom. He like, he get off on killing other versions of himself. He was like, it's so intimate. Like, I was like, oh yeah.
I had a weird, like, I was like, I gotta call my therapist. I don't know what's going on here. That issue damaged me psychologically for a while.
Times.
I'm gonna be dealing with this. That it is a man thing, Doom, and he's like, I must make you fall in love with me and then destroy you. Joke, you can actually be my like minion. Cut out your tongue. I am wearing my girlfriend's body, which I know is a previous thing, but like even still, it's just like, oh Lord, I was into it.
Kinda. Doom Cucker Doom. I love Jane being like, hey, if She-Hulk's gonna look fabulous and leave the book, I'm here, guys. And everybody's like, oh, okay. So, Jason Aaron, you're gonna just keep writing Jane Thor? You're not...
I have to say, like, I did love the... one of my complaints about a lot of the Avengers over this book has been, like, maybe I don't love the voice that he uses for all of them, but, like... Having read a lot of his Jane, I was like, oh, that's the Jane I'm used to.
There she is. All right.
I mean, it really is like the baller Marvel creative move to be like, I don't care that this character doesn't belong in this book. I wrote this character. Like, I wrote the definitive version, so she's coming along with me. And he's doing that all over the place with this. I appreciate it, even if it doesn't always feel convincing.
All right, now we have the ultimate question, you guys. This is the most important thing. Everyone, if you're watching, this is the most important question to ask yourself. Keep watching and listening and reading. If you care about Deathlock, do you care about Deathlock? Click nothing for yes. Shut down your computer for no.
The entire internet just blanks off.
You just killed all of our account.
Yeah.
There's a lot of Deathlocks. There's a lot of Deathlocks, though, Nico. There's a lot of them.
Oh, my God. Oh, my God.
And I don't care about any of them.
Yeah. I was like, wait, is this Deathlock confuses me so fucking much? Because I'm like, is this not the same Deathlock? No, they're never the same Deathlock. I was like, this isn't the Uncanny X-Force Deathlock. Oh, they're never the same fucking
Deathlock. And then they kill my precious orb, and they eat... Oh, wait, no, we're not at eating the eyeball yet, right? Eating the eyeball comes later. Okay. Cosmic Khazar. All right, Daddy. Let's fuck. All right.
Yeah, but, like, sending him back, like, to, like, then I'm like, okay, cool. I guess he is a prehistoric man, but what the fuck is he going to do? They know about the 1 billion BC Avengers because Tony Stark spent time there. So, like... Why would you send Khazar? Like, what is he gonna do? Have Sabu go bite somebody?
If I could talk with the animals, it would. Yeah,
he can't even do that.
All right, okay. World War She-Hulk. Final thoughts.
B-. It's fine, but I don't care.
A+ moment goes to Robbie saying, "Who's gonna take care of Gabe if I die?"
That was really cute. I love seeing Jen get back out of her Hulk form, so it gets a B+ for that alone.
And I loved Thor putting the Russian gods in the hospital. Why would you say that? The balls. The Mjolnir's hanging from this man. And clearly I mean Jason Aaron. Anyway.
Yeah, I just want the Winter Guard book now. It's too late at this point, but like, I mean, great group of characters.
And Namor joins the book. Okay.
I mean, but
All
does he
right.
though really like as much as any of the Avengers are in the book?
As much as anyone is in the book.
Except for
Well,
Jane, she's like taking over. I love it, but like she's like all over the place.
as are we, which is why we're going to boop ourselves to a quick commercial, and we will be right back to continue our coverage of Avengers, kicking off a look at 2022. Oh, okay. So we are back, and from World War She-Hulk to what I don't know. When I first read Avengers Forever, I think I was pretty negative on it. And the more I've read this arc, I don't know, because I read it when it first came out, and then I read it again in like trade, and then I read it for this. Every page of this is transformative in some way. I love all vengeance, and that Odin powered all vengeance, which is what Robbie is. So like Robbie is technically kind of a Thor character now, I guess. And the greatest thing I've ever heard is a symbiote is an operating system that a Ghost Rider can drive. That was the coolest moment of 2022 by far. I was thrilled. So, how did everybody feel about the Lords of Earthly Vengeance from Avengers Forever 1 through 5?
I thought it did a good job of setting up what Jason Aaron thinks of as the archetypes for these characters. Like I really couldn't get invested in any of the alternate universe characters themselves, but I did like what it said about how Aaron feels about these characters that he really hasn't shown how he feels about in the Avengers that much.
Yeah, for one thing, I'm very much in love with Tony Stark, Ant-Man. I don't. Everything about him is sexy. I hate Tony Stark, Iron Man.
I did not hate
Like
Ant-Man, Tony Stark.
No, I mean, like everything about he's super hot. Also, Aaron Cooter keeps drawing him specifically like a Romita character. Nobody else, but there are like 8 or 9 different panels, close-up shots of Ant-Man's face where he really looks like specifically he's trying to ape John Romita Jr. style, and it just works for the character. I don't know. It's a weird thing I'm noticing, but I love it a lot. It's all fantastic. Yeah, my biggest thing with what happens in Forever and where the main Avengers book goes is it just starts to shift to a place that leaves me wanting some kind of different format or something. Like, we really go deeply into this, like, now you need to know about this like hierarchy of Avengers, and like the multiverseness of them, and it just kind of is happening in fits and starts and splotches throughout various stories. I wish it were a little bit more organized and it were doing a little bit more to set expectations for me.
Well, I'm so glad you said the name Aaron Kuder, because that reminds me that I did not do the creative credits on Avengers 46 through 50 plus Avengers Forever 1 through 5. So 46 through 49 are drawn by Javier Garron with colors by David Curiel, letters by VC's Corey Pettit, and of course words by Jason Aaron, with the exception of the inks on 49 being by Flaviano. For issue 50, it's an incredible who's who of creative teams. We have Aaron Kuder, Carlos Pacheco, Rafael Fontiez, Ed McGuinness, and Javier Garron on art. They also do their own inks, so it's a pretty complete deal. We have Alex Sinclair, David Curiel, Matt Hollinsworth, and Rochelle Rosenberg on colors, with Corey Pettit on letters. Additionally, there are 2 backup stories. There's the really amazing diagram of the Avengers Tower Celestial Corpse House by David Baldon, with colors by Israel Silva and letters by Corey Pettit, as well as I'm glad we didn't even talk about it, because what the fuck is that backups? I don't understand. I looked into it. Evidently, Christopher Ruccio is like a big name in like British fantasy novels.
Okay.
Yeah, that made no sense to me.
But it's got Steve McNiven and Frank Darmada and Corey Pettit on art. That brings us to Avengers Forever, The Lords of Earthly Vengeance 1 through 5. Now, this series was originally promoted to be all by Jason Aaron and Aaron Kuder, but that's not how it wound up going. Aaron Kuder and Cam Smith, along with Jason Keith and Triona Farrell, one of the only times we have a different letterer, do the first issue. The second issue is Aaron Kuder and Carlos Mongo, with inks by Scott Hanna, Robert Poggi, and Cam Smith, along with colors by Guru Effects and letters by Corey Pettit. The third issue sees Aaron Kuder with Cam Smith and Scott Hanna, Guru and Corey. Guru and Corey, my buddies, right? The fourth issue is Jason Aaron, Jim Tao, and Guru Effects. Alongside the fifth issue, same creative team, plus Jim Tao contributed some of the colors. So the big thing here is that I found some of the issues really unsatisfying at the time. I didn't enjoy an entire issue of the Black Skull torturing the All-Rider. Fuck that, not my thing. I don't love seeing Nazis in power. But I'm surprised no one said it yet. That Moon Knight is the shit.
I love that Simon Williams too, and I love the fucking Infinity thing.
It is time for clobbering.
The Infinity thing has like one of the hottest designs I've ever seen.
Yeah.
I want like a Dazzler Infinity thing. I know that doesn't make any sense, but Dazzler Infinity thing is my new favorite thing.
Yeah, I mean, now that we're here, so close to the wrap up, reading this again was very enjoyable, but I think you're right. At the time, it was more of what I was saying earlier, which is like, I didn't get where this was going. I didn't have any concept of the vision. Is this going to be super important, or is this just like a diversion? What am I looking at here? Now that I know better, it's easier to get into.
And it did another one of the things that I'm like, oh, why does he always do this? Where like he drops the Thor girls, like they show up in issue 4. Or is it issue 4? Is it yeah, it's issue 4. They show up in issue 4, and like they don't show back up until like the last issue, and I'm like, oh, okay, they were important, but like
Captain fucking Carter.
Yeah.
Wait, who was anybody else like? Hawkeye looks. Is he not supposed to be that purple? What? I also loved Red Room Iron Man. That was some shit. All right, let's just talk about it. Doom cooks Doom. Disexually for Doom.
A giant
While on-
sized man doom is amazing. A giant size. I think they made that giant sized man doom joke in there. That was good. But other than that, I'm like, and then when he cuts his tongue out for him, and I'm sure he cleaned up the mess.
Doom
Like,
ego.
And it's all happening on planet Doom that also is subservient to Doom. How did he sexually dominate an entire planet of himself? How did he crucify its head? It's a planet.
Did he just project himself really big in space? Hammer
He's like,
your
I'm
own
inside you now. I
forehead.
am. He's like, I am inside you now, Planet Doom. I am your top.
Yeah, seriously, he is the world's tiniest bratty top.
The problem becomes what are we going to do with our Doom now? We have to take him seriously. And he's not a threat. The next time he shows up and threatens the Fantastic Four, I'm going to crawl into the book and be like, let me tell you what a Doom is, sir.
He's gonna be, I don't.
I'll cut my own tongue out. I'm good.
I don't want this. I did not sign up for this. I'm just a Doom, you guys.
Makes me wonder why, in X-Men and Fantastic Four, Emma Frost didn't just go, I got you now.
Okay. All right. That means we are looking at the next entry, guys. I think we're a little ahead of schedule. We're 1
That's
minute
great.
ahead of schedule. That's a really good thing because that
wow.
gives us time to have. Yeah. We're going to be taking a look now at Avengers Forever Infinity Comics 1 through 4. And these were released from March to April of 2022. And I had a lot of feelings about these 4 issues in some interesting ways, some not so interesting ways. I really found the first one unfulfilling as a read. It did very little to nothing, but there's a blind Thor who dies so that the Hammers can have a party with the Thor girls.
I mean, this is actually I kind of wish that more of the stuff that had been in Avengers and Avengers Forever had been pulled out and put into Infinity books like this, because there's a little bit of a point and a reference that's going towards the larger story, but most of it is flavor and just a little bit of hey, take a look at this other world. It's not super important, but there's a piece of it that is, and if you wanted the backstory, here is that backstory. And, to have put that in an Infinity book, again, if this were 20 to 30 issues and they were each 2 to 4 issue arcs, and we just pulled a lot of that out and left it in the Infinity book, I probably would be a little bit more this Avengers run is sharp, it's on the ball, it's got these things, and that's it. There's just a lot of stuff, and it's all just kind of sprawled throughout multiple books, and without really much guidance for what to read, what to care about. So anyway, that's how I feel.
Yeah, I think this era of Avengers would have really, really benefited from the checklist X-Men books have, in the back.
Oh, that's a great point.
Where if you're hey, cool, the story is continuing here and here and here, because if I didn't know this was going on, I didn't know this was going on until just recently, and I'm oh, okay, it fills a little holes in. So
it gave me something that I thought was really important. It gave me the idea that there really is a bigger plan here at play, because one of the things that's become kind of frustrating is the pages of Avengers kind of just fly by sometimes in a way that makes me wonder if the economy of page is being preserved for the sanctity of the reader or for the sanctity of art. Which side of this is the book always erring on? And it feels like it's always erring on the sanctity of the art, not the reader's pay. like at the reader's cost. So we're getting these things that go on, and they're these big performative ideas that I enjoy. I'm very into them. But the where did the Thor girls come from in Avengers Forever? Well, now I kind of understand. They know about the Masters of Evil, so they're called to this bigger story, and that's where the Captain Carter thing comes in. One of the things that I think is so great about that pivotal moment for this book is when we get Avengers Assemble. Avengers Forever is a prayer. It adds something counter to the idea of Mephisto as the actual bad guy of the arc. So if the bad guy is the devil and the Avengers are uniting through a prayer that is non-denominational, it's non-religious, it is a prayer that is a call for anyone who can answer it, it actually gives the book a huge perspective that I love following. It just should never have taken this many issues.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. Or like, again, I think just organize the issues. Checklist, great idea. They're clearly happy to do, labeled A and B plots. So make it clear that like A is where this thing happens that you need to know. B is an interesting story that you might want to check out. Like, give us some help knowing what matters and what doesn't, basically.
And just to point out really quick. Oh, I'm sorry, Nathan. Did you have something?
Oh, no, I was just gonna say just about like the way Avengers reads. We were talking about how sometimes it reads too fast. I kind of agree with it on that. It's some books you go to are really fun, rock'em sock'em time. You're gonna like get well done with that book in 5 minutes. Sometimes a book is like a Gillen book, and you are going to spend 30 minutes reading all of the text in it. You're gonna have a great time while doing it, but you need to budget that time. Avengers seems like it doesn't want to be the type of book where you read it in 5 minutes, but it is, and it's become more of that book over the span of the run.
I agree. It really feels like, it's going to sound so silly, but it feels like the panels have gotten bigger with less in each one. And that's of note. That's something that I think I really loved about this. To point out the creative team on this, Avengers Forever Infinity Comic 1 through 4 is by the incredible creative team of Jason Aaron, Kev Walker, Dean White, and Corey Pettit. The book itself really utilizes the shifting format. It really uses infinite scroll beautifully, and that's really engaging. I think Kev Walker was really great about what fit on a page, where maybe not every artist on the main book always feels like they care so much about that. But, on the whole, I would say as an Infinity comic, as something I didn't pay for, this gets a B+. I didn't pay for it. Thanks for the good book, Marvel Unlimited.
It's one of those nice value-added deals that they add. Like, you get Marvel Unlimited to read your classic issues, but you love the Unlimited stories. This is definitely one of those ones where you're like, oh, this was a really fun read. Just like a lot of the X-Men Unlimited Infinity books. Like, really fun.
Yep, I couldn't agree more. And I think it expands the world and the story in a way that I wish some of these other books had let their expansion happen somewhere else so that they could be a little more focused issue to issue.
And that brings us then to Avengers 51 through 56, The Death Hunters, which will go down in history as the strangest, most confusing, simultaneous arc going on at the same time as another arc. So this takes place at the same time as Avengers Forever, and it's where everybody who's not in Avengers Forever is. They're here. All of the other Masters of Evil, I guess. And this is by Jason Aaron, Juan Frugeri, David Curiel, Javier Goron, Brian Reber, and Corey Pettit. And it is the most confusing arc that I think I really liked.
I thought I knew what was going on up until the Serpent Society appeared.
Yeah! Okay, thank you!
And I'm like, what the literal fuck is this? it was it was fun. I mean, I have to say it was fun. I don't know reading it month to month if that would have been something that was really fun to go through, but like it's fun when you can read it as a collected trade.
Yeah.
Like it, and in that manner, like it's on MU right now. It's fun. Go read it. You might love it, you might hate it, but it's
I
fun.
also think it's fun if you are aware that you will now have access to the definitive story about what is happening with Phoenix and Thor. I'm really glad I did not read this until after that had all been published and was very easy to get to. This is an example of something like they talk so much about and around their backgrounds and stories. Put that in an Infinity book. Like, it is confusing a lot of the plot here, and you've just put another Phoenix in the mix that turns into a bird. Like, not the Phoenix Raptor, a bird. A sexy chicken.
Like Moira Rose. Answer our
It is
call!
it is the cloning. We're having the crowaning. That's just, it's a lot. It's a lot. And to then be like, and here are my emotional issues. I can't do it all. You need to separate it into like buckets that I can pick up as needed. And yeah, I mean, like you guys, I think that I understood everything that was happening. It's a lot easier now that so much of it is all published. But I think I would be completely fucking out of it if this was a month-to-month thing and I had to go read like each issue back again before I picked up the most recent one, because they do not flow like that.
No, so over this whole thing, the Thor and Echo arc, like what before it came out, what it really was, I was like, okay, cool. I like there's something going on. Like let's give it a shot to see what it is. Now that we know what it is, that Phoenix is like his foster mom in spirit, like
his conception doula.
I'm like, what, like, what? And it took up so much of. It took up so much of the character arcs. I'm like, this is not that important to take up all. Like you probably had over the span of when that it got introduced a whole issue or two worth of pages about Thor and Echo, just like not talking about it.
Well, and then there's that huge moment that they give us that setup for in 51, and then they're like, pause. Starbrand and Captain Marvel have to be petty at a funeral for a friend of Captain America's, which I ultimately really liked it, but I was like, what's happening?
I think that was the most characterization of Carol he's given her this whole entire time of the Avengers that he's been.
And let us pause for a moment to think about the fact that his conception of Carol is she will fight with a teenager that has only been alive for a couple of weeks.
Which, falls in line with a lot of my recent characterization of Carol, except for like there is this amazing Captain Marvel book going on by Kelly Thompson that, like, she is so much more and so much better than that. It just does it can't, and it doesn't jive with what's going on in her solo book.
Yep. That is one of the really big problems. I think it is funny. Like, the beat of her fighting with Starbrand is funny, especially when you put it like that and you like step back. I wish the book decided to play it for a little bit of laughs and be like, when things are really stressful and you're stuck with other superheroes, Carol turns into like a crazy person. Like, we get crazy, and like this is like, let's laugh about it for a second. But go read Captain Marvel if you want to see what she's like when she's on her shit. What it reads like is just like, I wanted to write the story, so this is how Carol will be behaving, and no, I will not be laughing about it.
Well, I was not laughing in issue 53 when, as my notes say, that's right, Jane, fight that doom. Right? She's just so good. And Red Panther. Let's just rename the show Red Panther for podcast. Let's just yes, and amazing X's for Podcast super voice and now super fan. Jake is chiming in with Carol Done Dirty. I agree, but also Red Panther.
Okay, but like again, why do the Avengers get only like great moments right before they are gone from the fucking book?
Oh, but that's the other thing. Can we take 2 seconds and talk about how many amazing secret backup costumes come from this book? How many cool other looks everybody gets? How many space costume, Russian room costume, Omega red variant She-Hulk with mega grip boobies? I don't know.
The
But
mega big.
this is just so many amazing artists being like, this is my take on what the Marvel Universe could look like if you would make it fashion. Red Panther. But yeah, I really, really love so many of these new looks, and I love what they do for these characters and how they sort of bring the book forward. But speaking of bringing the book forward, I gotta ask you guys, the Squadron took so long to come back up, and then we finally get Nighthawk in 55, 56. How do you guys feel about Nighthawk finally getting his due as a badass Avenger when he's been a badass all along?
I mean, it is kind of the thing that I said about that I was talking about in Heroes Reborn. It is super cool. But also Aaron, like it is a weird thing where Aaron has Black Panther of all characters come up and be like, here's all the reasons you suck, but I know that you're in it with us. And that's just like, oh, that's a really hard, I guess I didn't really think about, because again, it's been a while. I didn't really think about the fact that he's like specifically anti-progressive and like a little bit fashy when he is a congressperson, and that Black Panther really doesn't like those things. There's also a weird thing about like two black men talking to each other, and this is kind of like they can't both be on the same side and have the same values. I don't know how I feel about that. It's weird. But like the one thing I just really don't love is that it's like, okay, you definitely want to stop Mephisto, so that's great. I wish he was also like a good guy, because apparently he's not, and I trust Black Panther on that read.
Yeah, it's. I don't know that Heroes Reborn was worth going through to get that is the payoff. Like,
Agreed.
Like, he's a fine character. Like, I'd like to see him have to deal with the previous Kyle Richmond, who was Defenders member. Like, you know, like let's see that kind of like stuff happen and deal with his identity, and instead of just whatever happened after his intro.
Well, and speaking of things that have happened and been introduced, and I kind of forgot the order of them, issue 54 is when they eat the eyeball. So, Doom takes a chunk out of the Watcher eyeball, throws it on the ground, and then Mephisto is like, Mephisto! And he just...
Okay.
Go.
Like his death scene too, Orb's death scene, like is he like turned different shades of eye color before then?
It was William Shatner levels of camp.
I was like, I love this. And when they were eating him, I was like, oh, okay, cool. Are they gonna try to kill Nick Fury now and like eat his eyeball? And then they got both of the Watcher's eyes.
Yes to all of this. I just don't necessarily get it. I mean, I thought it was going to be like, we ate it, so now we have all the knowledge. But apparently, when Doom can't like sexually dominate a Mephisto, he's like, I'll do food instead. I'll do gluttony for this one, since I can't do lust. I don't know what the plan is here. It just like, it was a moment.
Doom is like that. Doom is like a Dom who just like never goes home and takes off his Dom mask. He's just like
and as we know, that's not healthy. That will be his undoing.
Yeah,
he's gonna get an infection. But I need to point out that the greatest thing that has ever happened in any issue of Avengers ever has to be, for me, the thick ass Thor that Jane Foster imagines being married to in issue 56. He is built and stuffed for lovin'. And I loved Jane fighting alongside a Valkyrie. I get it, girls. I would fight alongside both of you. You're both awesome. I don't know what else to fucking say. And I love all of the you're Mephisto kind of shit going on. I don't know. Issue 56. I'm so glad we're on it together and that I didn't have to cover it without you guys, because issue 56, like, I mean, not that I had to, but like, I mean, that there wasn't some world where I covered this without you two, because this issue is such a Jane Foster Valkyrie issue, and down to the her looking at the hammer, kind of like,
Miss you. This book is horny in the weirdest possible ways. To go from, yes, that particular depiction of Thor, which absolutely incredible, like also not how Thor looks in this book. It is really Jane's imagining of like how they would live together, and he's like super hot and she's ready to fuck, all the way to the end of the book where she's like, I miss fucking that hammer.
But
yeah.
I mean, like, that's. I have to say, like, his writing when Jane came onto the book, like, especially for Jane, turned into something that the rest of the book hadn't been before. So I feel like it was weird because the book has moments where it goes into that serious, like, cool, like, he knows Jane, he loves her, he inside and out, like, he has her voice. So then you, like, get these other characters and you're like, but you can be a really great and deep writer, but why aren't you?
Yep,
Thor?
He's
I
a little
was
green
like,
screen, but you can still see it.
yeah, that was hot. And I do love how she's like, God damn, Thor, you've got a rock hard dick, but that hammer has got a really long handle.
And who could blame her? Who could blame her? She understands the power of being a god, and that's sort of the thing that makes this book so unique. It's about these larger-than-life characters being larger than life, and that's one of the things that I think that the Death Hunters gets really right as an arc. I also love that it gives us that awesome image that we have in the lower corner that shows the awesome team and their amazing lineup. It's such a cool lineup. It's such a waste that the next arc completely throws this lineup in the trash and has no use for it. And we get Ito Avengers, which are awesome, but what? And we get Azardos. God, Nathan, I want to give you 45 minutes.
Man, you are eating, Nathan. You get so many Zardoses in this.
There are like so many. Like, it's like Aaron was like, oh my God, what's a family that I could have? Oh.
What's a Marvel family that nobody's already defiled? Yes.
If only it hadn't been the Yamas, Nico.
Oh, I get so horny for the Yamas. Okay. So, I'm having such a great time. We are going to just keep on rolling straight on into our next bit of coverage, and we are going to take a look at the next volume of Avengers Forever. Now, Avengers Forever Volume 2, Pillars, is so unique because instead of being a straight arc about any one thing, it's an arc about how these characters represent the pillars of the foundation of the Avengers. You have Vibranium Man, who is a Black Panther. You have Prison Hot Sex Steve. I don't know what I read there. That was really strange.
I
gave us
Dog Captain America. That's the best out of all that.
Well, yeah.
Is Wolverine Duke Captain America?
Which I'm obsessed with. We have a Thor who he has Thunder Fist because he basically becomes the Iron Fist by beating up his hammer, which I love.
God of Fists. God of Fists.
Amazing. We have the Carol Corps in a really I'm not sure what I read there. We'll get into it. And we have the amazing Ant-Man, Tony Stark, Iron Fist starting a Tony Stark support group for Tony Starks in recovery of
Tony Stark's Anonymous.
And then we top things off with one of my favorite issues ever of My Beautiful Robbie. And yes, he does look like Ron Perlman.
He does look like Ron Perlman. I love it.
So let's get into it. Vibranium Man, issue 6. Issue 6. Vibranium Man is a great idea, but this felt awfully close to the What If stories.
Exactly.
And I was really disappointed by how close this felt to that What If.
Exactly. When I was reading it, I was like, wait, which one came out first? This sort of the What If episode? Like, what's going on here? And at the end, did he become a Phoenix Panther, or did he become a Star Brand Panther?
I think he's a Star Brand Panther.
I think it's closer to Star Brand, but he did not have the brand, so it's a weird... This is where we start to get a little bit into that weird zone of like, I'm not sure where we're entirely going with this. Nico, I love that you brought up the fact that like this is a book about larger than life people being larger than life, because this is where we come to understand the way in which the Avengers are gods to the people, even though we also have like he knows how to write gods who are gods and also Avengers, and Avengers as like a thing that is like a god in that it's a huge conceptual thing and can get expansive to the point where like multiversally the constants about these people can be a binding thing, and we need all those constants to come together and win this fight. It's really cool. There are some great ideas here. It's a lot of fun, really smart, but Vibranium Man does kind of point to one of the places in which it's like, if you don't do it justice for whatever reason, maybe you don't have enough time, maybe it's just not like you just don't have the story quite right by the time it has to come out, it does fall noticeably flat in a way that when you're like, I will love the fucking group of Steves forever. I would love the Carol Corps. And like, I like that, you know, Black Panther is one of the constants, but I don't know that there's anybody who's going to feel the same way about Vibranium Man and that story.
I very get that.
Yeah. I was waiting for like Rocket and Groot to show up and be like, oh, where are they? And like, he grew up on Chandler. Like, okay, like this Yar, like
Aaron knows what he knows.
Yeah.
All right, guys, I have a question. If you put a bunch of Steves in a prison camp to test their mettle against each other, and you know, sure, there's some Steve After Dark stuff I want to get into at some point. And you guys could probably pick my Steves out, you know. But my question is, was this an abduction?
Yes.
Yes. Like,
Yes.
I was like, oh, like who is running this weird prison for Steve Rogers versions? Like, and I'm guessing the dog is a version of Steve Rogers too. Like, I'm like, okay, cool. They're trying to, like, somebody's trying to snuff out alternate universe Steve Rogers, but then it was him, and I was like, what? Why?
And they're like, man, if we can't test these Steves and break these Steves, and I'm like, why are you trying to break Steve Rogers? Oh, because, you know, and like, it's this whole thing about we have to find Avenger Prime. We have to find Avenger Prime. And like, I'm really hoping that Avenger Prime is the team inside of us all along the way. Yes. Wow. So this is an abduction then. Exactly, producer Kevo. This is 1,000% an abduction then. So I don't know.
Promise cherry blossoms and
like some kind of pervert. I'm supposed to go to the Cherry Blossom Festival alone. And man. All right. So perverts aside, you know, how did everybody feel about the God of Fists, which I was obviously gay for?
Everybody's gay for the God of Fists. Period. You don't get a choice in it. You are gay for the God of Fists. Done.
I thought the art of him beating up the fist was gruesome, but erotic at the same time.
Right, in a way that you're not ready to confront about yourself.
Yeah.
Now, I do need to point out that, perverts aside, no, thank you, I do want to point out really quickly that the incredible art on this amazing arc is brought to us in 6 by Jim Tao and Guru Effects, in 7 through 9 by Aaron Cooter, Cam Smith, and Guru FX, and in 10 and 11 by Jim Tao with Guru FX and Jim Tao and Frank Martin. So there's a really interesting spread of incredible talent on this title. Really lovely work. You know, this, I don't know, this did make me realize that the Avengers really can be broken down into roles. You know, the way that they sub out, it's unfortunate that they sub out Nighthawk for Black Panther and they're both men of color. I don't care for that substitution value, although it is very important to keep significant volumes of characters of color in these roles. I like the idea that you say, oh, it's the industrialist with the brilliant suit who can solve any crime. That's the part that subs out really well. And that's something that I'm realizing here. Monica subs in for Carol, and if you can't have either of them, some version of Novar can do. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Some version of a Kree character. This Carol being from a Hellfire world with rabid animal people that seem to get off on torturing humans, however.
But she's from the Dark Phoenix from the Masters of Evil's universe, right?
Which leads me to believe that she is just a bird.
Right, and I'm like, what's going on here? Like, why? Like, are
oh my
these
god,
wicked...
that's why she's got a bird form.
Yeah,
and it's like they were talking about the Hellfire rain, and I was like, oh, okay, cool. Is this Jean Grey? I'm still trying to figure out this Dark Phoenix, even though
okay, I'm gonna throw it out there right now. She is literally Raven Darkholm.
And Raven,
I don't know.
and no, oh my god, and Aaron is famous for writing Mystique and Logan in a relationship. She could be Raven Darkholm. It's just gross.
Oh god.
Also, I love how it's a bunch of animal people and a pig-headed guy, and then just one enormous hook-nosed human dude. Thankfully, he was not into bagels or anything, but I was watching every single panel, and I was like, you better not. Nobody better do anything.
Oh, gosh.
Oh, man. Well,
I mean, I did... That was the only time I've ever felt that Jason Aaron has been semi-kind to Carol as a character, because he is not and I'm no Carol defender, but he is not kind to Carol at all.
He's being kind to the idea of Carols broadly. Omni Carol he's okay with. 616 Carol, I think he's still, I don't know about you.
Nah, he sucks.
I read Civil War 2. I read Civil War 2. Secret War 2. It's a big.
They're big different.
They're all civil secrets. It's fine. But speaking of secrets, were we not supposed to get that this was the Stark all along? Were we not supposed to know that it was this Tony Stark the whole time?
I was like, why? Why are we having this issue? There's been a Tony here the whole time who is infinitely more likable than any other fucking Tony Stark I've ever read, or that Jason Aaron
I've ever read. Yes, by far my favorite version of Tony Stark. And then, wait, but is he this Tony Stark son of a Tony Stark?
The what?
No, I thought for a second I was like, I think that's just another one that he treated like a dad, because even in the multiverse, when there's a cool Tony Stark, he still has issues and can't figure it out and just latches on to the wrong people in inappropriate ways. Yeah, I just really cool. And even the fact that his Carol Corps is an AA group, it's beautiful, and they've got him there, so they're good. It just a very interesting moment. It was a little silly. There was a little bit of giggles, but I don't think that that's not okay in this case. And I do think, with the exception of the moment where he's and so then we went away and I threw all the alcohol away and it was a tough withdrawal, but then I was fine. Let's just Marvel. Let's be careful when we do alcoholism stories. We're in a weird place right now, and let's be careful.
What is this, Dollhouse season 2?
At that part, I was like, is that what they're trying to say? Like, just all alcoholics need to like throw their booze to a portal to
Throw
hell,
it in
and they'll be
hell.
fine.
Actual bottle for a demon. Oh my god, all the viewers gone. Before when I literally asked them to disconnect. So all right, let's talk about the issue at hand here. Avengers Forever number 11. I hate, and you can ask my producer husband Kevo, I am famous for I hate bullies in fiction that are unbeatable. Because I know they're going to be beaten, so why are you putting me through this?
Yeah.
I know that someone's going to take them down. That my all writer, like I at some point a couple of years ago, like rededicated my life to Robbie Reyes and like just what he means to me, and like I would have done a Robbie Reyes podcast if I hadn't started this X-Men one first. And it's like Robbie, as a Latino guy, just makes me feel like a superhero, I guess. And I love him, and the idea that he could see that the Doom above dooms was that kind of bully that I hate in fiction, because he's literally unbeatable at this point, because we're not at the point where the story will allow him to become beatable. And Robbie, in so many ways, knew that in that moment and marched toward his death because it was right for the multiverse. Oh my God, what a rewarding moment for a fan. Avengers Forever number 11. Just that was like, and then Deathlock went and did the right thing for reality. And but that was the kind of moment where you just want to be like, Jason Aaron, thank you for knowing what Robbie Reyes means to a generation of people who did not feel that there was a character for them. Oh, Robbie Reyes.
And
I love.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say I love this. I loved this issue, but it made me go back and think how much there was parts of issue 1 I really hated. I hated the idea of him having to slay all the other alternate versions of Robbie Reyes, because that wasn't really the character that Robbie Reyes was, and maybe that's what Jason Aaron thought he needed to be to become the all writer and claim it. But like, I think the payoff of that was cool to see that emotional arc, and to have the Deathlock sacrifice himself for Robbie Reyes. But beyond that, like, it still leaves me like wanting more from Robbie during this whole series.
I really I love what he's done with Robbie. The thing I guess like that really impresses me is that he has made Robbie a character like Jane Foster, where now we're going to associate Robbie with this run, and he has really said, like, kind of out of nowhere, like, hey, this guy is really important. And there is no reason to ever think a Ghost Rider is super important for like a multi-tier Avenger story. And it is a risk to be like, get into this dude. And he did it, and he crafted the story all the way through to pay that off. So nobody could ever say, well, he just like said Robbie was important and we had to believe him. No, he has taken us on the journey. It is true. It's just not something that you would normally think of Ghost Rider as like that being their role. So we get a character and a whole new world for Ghost Riders. I guess the only thing is, like, I would love to know a little bit more about like the demons at play here, because we're seeing things like the Spirit of Variance and X-Men. We're seeing characters like Kushala. We're learning that it's a bigger cosmology around the Riders. And if he doesn't pay that off, it's almost better than like just doing a little bit. But I would love to. I'm now really interested in what can be made of the Riders, such that like it can maybe be a little bit more than like, you just got to be a badass with a bike and a need for vengeance.
Now, that brings us to the end of Avengers Forever, before Avengers Assemble, which means we have to talk about the arc of Avengers that leads us into Avengers Assemble. And that's 57 to 62, sort of. Um, and I'm talking like this because it's, Kevo, could you please zoom in on the issue labeled 60 that has Natasha? Yes, that one, exactly. If you could zoom in on that. This issue, I can't even explain how much this is going to forever disrupt my I think there's a magic to numerology in comics. Every issue of Avengers, Avengers Forever, the requisite tie-ins, the stories that appeared in other series that are requisite reading for this were all written by Jason Aaron. And then here's one issue of 120 written by Mark Russell. In the middle.
Okay. So, as a single issue, like, it's actually a good issue.
It's actually very good, yeah.
I love it. Like, and I don't always love Greg Land, but he really restrained himself from pulling his worst qualities out and used his best qualities. And it was a really good issue. But when you cover it, when you think of it, the fact that Axe was supposed to, like, the A in Axe is Avengers, so it was supposed to be an Avengers tie-in book.
Yep.
This issue doesn't even fucking feature an Avenger. Like, Hawkeye is a Thunderbolt. Like, and he is in his Thunderbolt outfit. Like,
and it's so funny. I think it's so funny that we are talking about this now just kind of by coincidence, because we spent so much time with Axe Avengers #1 being like, what? Like, is this an Avengers? This is just Tony Stark and his daddy issues, which great that we're like zooming all the way back to that with Ant-Man Tony Stark. But like, like, this is not Avengers. This is an Avenger with a problem. And here we are again in the Avengers numbered book, where you would think, okay, if they did that in Axe Avengers, maybe in the Avengers book, we will get a little bit more about what's going on with the actual Avengers. Instead, it is two people who are not really part of this roster. And yes, there is a degree to which it's like, when you're an Avenger, you're an Avenger. And like, we associate these two names with Avengers because of the movie, and yes, because of the comics as well. So like, they're part of it. It's really beautiful. I love having them in the mix. It is issue number 60. It is the one Axe issue for Avengers. It's kind of unfair is what it comes down to. Like, for Jason Aaron, for these characters, and for us as readers, it's all just sort of wrong.
And I get it. Like, Axe fell in the middle of a big epic arc where the Avengers are on Earth. So like, now I'm wondering, where does Judgment Day, like, where does that fit into the chronography of Avengers? Even like, when like, are we before Judgment Day still in Avengers, or are we after Judgment Day? Was like, and I was like, because like, you can say like, oh cool, the like, during the event you were like, oh no, it can't be after, because Avengers Mountain is not there anymore. The Celestial's still walking around, but everything went back to normal.
Right.
So now I'm like, wait, where? What?
That means we're talking about history's mightiest heroes, Avengers 57 through 62 plus 60. I don't know. And this was all written by Jason Aaron, except for 60. I don't know. Which was written by Mark Russell. Now, art on 57 through 59 is Javier Garron with David Curiel and Corey Pettit on letters. 61 and 62 are Ivan Fiorelli and David Curiel alongside Corey Pettit. And then issue 60 is Mark Russell, Greg Land, Jay Liston, Dave Curiel. I don't know. So I'm going to stop harping on how disruptive. Like, it actually read to me like this was written as Judgment Day Hawkeye #1, and they got a note that they were doing fewer one-shots. The book was done, and it went to print.
Issue 60, I have no defense for issue 60. It was an amazing issue, self-contained by itself. Like, absolutely no, like, it was really touching, heart-wrenching. I was like, wow, I wish this Avengers run had this much feeling throughout all of it.
All of it.
Throughout all of it. But it doesn't. And this was the issue that really made me question, okay, how is Axe an Avengers event? Because it was really just an Eternals event that included Krakoa and the X-Men.
And Cap.
And Cap for like a hot minute in Iron Man. He was the reason the progenitor went wrong, but
Yeah. Cap was the Kinder Surprise in this. He popped out of the egg. He came with a toy.
He was a literal Kinder Surprise. I love that. But beyond issue 60, which absolutely disrupts the whole arc, I actually loved the arc because, like, literally, like I'm saying, I think like Jason Aaron's like, what's a family that I could be like has some really deep ties and like some really cool areas of the Marvel history. Oh, the Zardos family. Let's make one of them the Sorcerer Supreme. Let's make one of them a Phoenix host who went to go hunt witches on Wendigore. Like what? But throughout it all, it was mainly a really beyond all that cool stuff and all of the other cool versions of these heroes we got to see throughout the ages. I love seeing the different Phoenix hosts. I love seeing like the various incarnations of heroes that joined the team throughout the time, and this lineage of the Earth Protectors, not even just the 1 million BC one, but other ones that kind of got added in, like the Moon Knight characters and other generational heroes like that. It was really cool to see, and it was really fun, and it really did have a good emotional arc with Starbrand, which has really been the main focus character of the Avengers since she was introduced, basically.
Wolverine gets Old Man Logan, Star-Lord gets Old Man's Quill, and Starbrand gets Old Hag Brandy. So...
Yeah, I don't know. It was all really cool. This is another place where I'm like, that we're dealing with the alternate universes with these like specific versions of the characters, all this cool stuff. It just kind of feels like that is a kind of story that needs to be dealt with in the same vein as some of the stuff that's happening in Avengers Forever. It just feels like there's common threads that would have been better put together in a book, and then have some of the more like present stuff in Avengers, some of the more immediate stuff be something else. I don't know. Again, structure and organization, I think really could have benefited, because there's nothing in here that I'm like, just get rid of it, it's bad. It's just all how it's parsed out.
I am eternally gay for Secret Invaders. Ghost Riders, Blade, and War Thing. There is no bad version of Man-Thing except Doom-Cucked Man-Thing is not delicious. But War Thing is amazing. I loved the Edo period exploration, and I love Namor and Echo having a conversation, and Namor being like, listen, if you go Dark Phoenix, I will do you a solid, and I will kill you.
And she's like, what? I didn't ask that.
And she's like, why are you apologizing for trying to kill me by threatening to kill me? He's like, it's not a threat. I'm promising I offered to kill you. And she's like, okay, I'm not going to go dark because I'm not a crazy white man. But I promise I'll kill you too. And he's like, no, I'll kill you. I really appreciate that, like, he doesn't know what to do with her genuineness, right? Because there's a genuineness to Echo. And I think the genuineness is what made this arc really work, because I am genuinely obsessed with Reno Phoenix and the Starbrand kid.
Yeah. Okay. So, as much as I love this arc, it raises questions, right? So,
oh, does it?
So, like, okay, this is in recent recorded history. How would history not have recalled any of these fucking legends?
Recent recorded history.
I mean, like, I get 1 million BC Avengers, nobody fucking remembering them. But in the like 1800s, there were novels. Like, people would have wrote.
There was Raven Darkholme.
Yeah, she would be like, whoa. She, like, Irene would have been like, oh yeah, let's not get involved with those phoenixes.
Apocalypse is just running around going, I remember this being much different.
So my thing, one of the things that I've been like trying to figure out if maybe this is what they were going with is like the 615 universes besides ours, like Avengers 1 million BC is the first branching point. And each time we are in one of these other universes, it's a different branching point where the 616 universe happened the way that we remember it. But the weird thing that happened is what the Avengers are seeing, and that is a separate universe. Even my explaining it is like a little weird, but I'm trying to, yes, because they're saying they're going back in time, but too much stuff is happening that somebody would have some knowledge of. Like, this wouldn't, even if they said, I once heard about a fucking Star Brand kid or anything, the fact that nobody has any of this knowledge, it makes me long for an explanation like the one that I just gave off the top of my head. Because it's like, okay, explain to me what the fuck all of this is. Like, this is your magnum opus Avenger story. Tell me how we got here. And that is one of the things that I feel is missing and is getting kind of bogged down by there being so much stuff mixed together in here. Give us some stories that are like, logistically, here's the plan, here's why we're doing it, here's why the universe is like this right now, so that everybody can know why any of this matters. Because I do feel like it does. I just feel like we don't ever get the tools to understand it with the same sort of grasp that the creatives have, because it's their story.
And I think what's funny, and it's because like this is always my go-to. Are you telling me that no bad guy is trying to infiltrate these time periods and taking advantage of them? Like, that's what kind of gets me. Doom isn't going to take advantage of these weak periods. Although, I just want to say one more time, that Ghost Rider is like, I was never a Ghost Rider, like, hardcore fan before Robbie. And in the last couple of years, like, I just think Marvel is putting out so many phenomenal Ghost Rider characters. And we literally just did a big special on Limbo on this show, talking about all of the amazing elements of Limbo. And now we have to do a part 2, because now we've talked about this, and now there's so much more Zardos to dial into to get this bigger picture. I am challenged by Starbrand being an old lady. It does feel like if Starbrand is a woman here, her mother's life was created and snuffed from a creative standpoint to make this young woman whose entire adulthood was taken from her. And oh wow, wait, if Star Panther was raised on Chandalar, that actually is an interesting tie back to Starbrand, whose mother was in the Shi'ar corn husking fields. I don't remember. It's space.
And like hunting Smurf berries or something. I don't
know. These Smurf berries don't taste like Smurf berries.
It was like Avatar.
They taste like human trafficking.
But don't forget, that's a separate universe.
So, but there's a parallel.
In theory there is. In practice, I do not think that will come up. But I think that that's a problem. Like, there are these elements here that we are pointing them out, kind of just throwing things out to be like, does that make any sense? Yes, it actually does. But I don't feel like these are going to be the explanations that we get. I think we are really coming to like such an end point that like a lot of this stuff will not really be explained, and I do think it could have used just like a little bit more this is why
a soupçon more explanation.
I just am like, where have all these Phoenix hosts been in the white hot room when we see them? And why is Jean Grey the most important?
Yeah, it really does start to become like, it can't really be that Jean Grey is the most important. This must be the Age of Marvels. And this must be that moment from which time ripples are happening. And it's with that big smile that we look forward to Avengers Assemble, where the Avengers are finally going to take on the Masters of Evil, featuring the Doom above Dooms, Mephisto, and his plan to reorder the Earths. Sure. And beyond that, Namor's finally a good guy. The Red Room was defeated, but the Squadron is still running around. And the last we saw them, the Squadron was working with the de-hulked, one-armed Red Widow, deprogramming Hyperion after killing Dr.
Now,
Spectrum. So I'm like, there were so many huge elements as we barrel toward Avengers Assemble Alpha, 63, Forever 12, 64, Forever 13, 65, Forever 14, 66, Forever 15, and Omega. And here's my main thing. We don't know the full creative teams, but what we do know is Aaron Kuder is working with legendary inker Mark Farmer for the first time on this run for this arc. That's a little unusual. But while Javier Garon and Aaron Kuder are trading off issues back and forth for Avengers and Avengers Forever, Alpha was by Brian Hitch, and Omega is by Garon, Kuder, Tau, and Fiorelli, the four most recent major artists on the run. So I'm left sort of confused why Brian Hitch was brought in to pitch hit one issue right before the end. It's Mark Russell all over again, but this one's got Jason Aaron's name right on it. What are you guys looking forward to most about Avengers Assemble, as it's literally fucking next?
from this whole arc, I need to know who was the all Avenger. Like, who was that? Who was that?
Avenger Prime.
Avenger Prime. Thank you. Why did I confuse him with Ghost Rider? Who is the Avenger Prime? And like, is it Loki? Like, there's like the God Quarry and stuff makes me think some of that. I don't know, but like,
they don't mind pulling stuff in out of nowhere at the end. So
yeah, and I'm like, is it? I'm hoping it's gonna be worth this whole 100 and something issue arc that we've covered, but I'm not necessarily sure that it is.
Yeah, and I don't know for me that I will be so kind of done if Avengers Assemble isn't everything that I want it to be. But we are moving into this final phase of the project. We have Avengers Assemble Alpha, and then we go through, I think we get like 3 more months of various releases, and then Omega. And then we are on to a brand new chapter for the Avengers, like a really big shift. And I guess I'm just really hoping to see the final anchor points and seeds and all these different metaphors that mean that I really hope that however it goes within the story itself, that this work is allowed to continue. Like, other creatives are allowed to pick up some of these things that were laid down and grow them. We've gotten, I will just be devastated if it's a while before we hear anything from Robbie Reyes. And there's a lot of other characters that I feel that way about. Like, I don't want to see what was done here be all for the purpose of itself. And so what I'm looking for in Avengers is like, can I see that this is a point that, a Latino man could come and write Robbie? Like, will I see something there that I'm like, somebody can grab onto that? Or are we going to sew this up so tight that like it's a closed loop and it's just question mark who uses who from now on?
Well, it looks like the guy who's going to be using the Avengers very well may be Jed MacKay. There's a lot of rumors that it's also going to be Donny Cates. So it's possible that either Donny Cates or Al Ewing, another person that it's been rumored to be, maybe the three of them are going to work together the way DC has had a lot of creators working on multiple titles together, the way Marvel has historically had like brain trusts. But guys, we did it. We just got through an unbelievable number of Avengers issues. I'm just looking to see all of these teams come together. I'm so happy we did this. And now we just have assembled, and then we get to start a whole new fresh page with Avengers in the new year. This is the final episode of X's for Podcast for 2022, and I couldn't be more excited. This is so well earned, and I want to thank all of you out there for watching. And quickly, before we go away, I definitely want to get everybody's sign-offs and where they can find you one more time. So I'm Nico. You guys can find me on Twitter and Instagram at NicoAction. That's NicoAction. And you can find the show at X's for Podcast on all your socials, as well as xsforpodcast.com.
It's Nathan. You can find me screaming on Twitter and other social medias about how cool that Jason Aaron discovered the Zardos is. Because, and then Mark Howley's back in Legion of X right now. Oh my God. Yeah, you can hear me scream about all of that at Dazzler AOA. That's like Dazzler in the Age of Apocalypse.
And I'm TK. You can find me all over the socials at XNateXGrayX, and I think I will still be screaming about Bird Phoenix.
She's just a fucking bird, man.
Just a bird. Finally, after all this time, it's just a bird.
Yeah. Well, I can't wait to see you all in 2023. The whole team, from everybody here, the X-Pack, our amazing producer Kevo, who does an unbelievable amount for a guy who doesn't regularly read comics, and is just an amazing producer, to everybody from the X-Pack who has given so much of their time this year. And that's, everybody, the list is so long, I can't even. Steve, Jake, Jonah, Kyle, everybody I am leaving out. I'm not leaving you. Thank you for the confetti. I would just literally be here 10 minutes. I could never do this amazing thing without these two guys, and we're just all so grateful for all of your fandom, and to all of the other podcasts out there and shows that we talk with all the time, and specifically a lot of the Twitter fan accounts like Daily Ileana, and a lot of the groups that are like all about specific characters and retweet us, and thank you so much. We can't wait to do more with you guys in 2023. And okay, that's it. Now I'm done. Kevo, turn me off.